thank you for underscoring that point about the exceptions. And I guess to illustrate that point, I wanted to tell two quick stories. One is about Savita Halaparnavar. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she was a 31-year-old woman who lived in Ireland. And she was 17 weeks pregnant when she lost her pregnancy with a miscarriage, and went to the hospital because the miscarriage hadn't passed. Excuse me. Ireland had an exception for the life of the mother, but it wasn't clear what there are no, as you were saying, there are no clear lines about, when you're probably going to be okay and when you're probably going to die. It's not clear.
A doctor can't make that. A doctor doesn't have like some test that you put this on your tongue. Exactly. If it comes back blue, you're in danger of dying. If it comes back red, you're fine. It's a completely subjective call by a doctor who is weighing the idea that I may do this and risk going to jail or fines or being losing my license or not.
Yes. So, I mean, that case, she ended up dying of sepsis and cardiac arrest. She was 31 years old. This was in 2012. And in 2018, that case was a large motivating factor in the Repeal the ACE campaign, when Ireland eventually did overturn their Eighth Amendment banning abortion. And then just on a smaller level, I know a woman who had a miscarriage here in the U.S. in Florida. She was on vacation. And it was quite early in her pregnancy, but she had a miscarriage, had to go to the hospital, and was prescribed the same drugs that someone who is having an abortion would take. That's mifepristone and misoprostol.
That's all you can take. Yeah.
Yeah. So she went to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist, who was a young white Christian guy, basically didn't believe her. He thought that she didn't look sad enough, and essentially, that she was having an abortion and lying, and he turned her away. And thankfully she was in a city, and she was able to go somewhere else and, get the medication she needed. But if you're in a small town, or say your only local hospital is Catholic, which is very common, unfortunately, in rural areas, you're basically fucked, to be honest. So the exceptions, they're bound to fail people. They're designed to fail people. And all that it takes for an exception to not work for you is for some guy not to believe you, basically.
Absolutely.
We just had, it's just, I mean,
I don't mean to interrupt, but we just had a guest on, 3 weeks ago, about in Alabama.
Oh yeah.
That you,
I remember that.
In Alabama, where there is documented instances of women being turned away in that very situation where they've had a miscarriage. The only way, when you have a miscarriage, it doesn't necessarily, the fetus or the embryo does not necessarily clear out. And I think it was Dr. Leah Torres, and she was a doctor who went to Alabama and found her colleagues turning women away in this instance. And they were doing it because they are afraid of being seen as providing an abortion. And so we are going to have, there's not going to be one woman who dies in that way. There's going to be multiple tens of women who die in that way. And they won't care. They won't care. I mean, we saw it in the gun case too. These conservatives on the court, they have a fundamental disregard for the outcomes of their cases because they believe that there is some objective principle that they are operating on. Now, they keep making it up every time that they go and revisit it. The principle is laws that existed in the 18th century or the 19th century. No, it's actually, we're just looking specifically at the narrow reading of the text. Yet they can come up with an individual law in 2008 for guns. They make this up as they go along and pretend it is an immutable principle that they are working on, and that they cannot look at the outcomes. And it is a farce. And women are going to die, and women are not going to get health care. And this is going to extend to all 50 states in this country. I appreciate
Yeah.
the phone call.
Thank you.